Hi everybody, it's Scott from GrandCare Systems. Let's talk about GrandCare. First of all, a little information about GrandCare Systems, the company. We're not new. GrandCare is not in beta. Many thousands of people have used GrandCare over the years, and so 15 years. I think GrandCare's been in business for 15 years, and I myself have been around for about 7 of those years. GrandCare uses a quality management system such as the kind you might find in a manufacturing environment, and it's just a way that we document how we run each aspect of our business, and we document that we actually follow those rules for ourselves, and that helps us demonstrate to regulators and to other people that the GrandCare product is both safe and effective, and that we know what we're doing. So we sell GrandCare to private homes, or what I call civilians. These are the people that call us up on the phone and say, I'm really concerned about Dad. He lives alone. He's very old. So we do sell to those people. We try to find out what their main concerns are, and we try to shape a GrandCare solution around that. But the real way that we like to get into the private home is through in-home care providers and other people that are providing services to seniors living at home. We also do sell GrandCare to senior housing communities, and they tend to use GrandCare in a little bit different way. They tend to use things like community-wide calendaring and community-wide messaging, and a directory for all the residents to look up their neighbors and so on. So it's a little bit different than how people tend to use it at home, but there's some spillover there among features. GrandCare is available, of course, in the United States and in the United Kingdom, in Canada. We have lots and lots of customers in New Zealand. No one's ever really been able to explain to me why that is, but we do have a lot of customers in New Zealand. And of course, we're always looking for places to expand. So what does GrandCare do? I like to say that GrandCare helps you stay safe, healthy, and connected. And by that, by safe, I mean that we do activity monitoring. That is, that GrandCare can be used with optional wireless motion sensors and door sensors, temperature sensors, so that GrandCare can know something about what's happening in that residence, and so can you. And the easiest way to explain this is to say that, if my dad, for example, he lives in Culver City, California, which is a long way away from where I live in Wisconsin, and he's turning 85 this summer, and he lives at home, and so his GrandCare has a motion sensor with it, and I've put that motion sensor in his kitchen. It's right on his kitchen counter next to his coffee maker, and I've told his GrandCare that if you don't see him by 10 a.m., I get a phone call. And that's it. That's all I need from that piece of equipment. I get no phone call. I know that everything's good. Dad's up. He's in the kitchen. He's getting breakfast. He's doing what he's supposed to do. No problem. I get no phone call. It's perfect. And there's a lot of different ways that you can use these type of sensors to establish those checkpoints, so that you can know that everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen, or that it's not, and that you might want to look in on that. That's how GrandCare helps you stay safe. GrandCare helps you stay healthy because GrandCare can remind you when to take your medication, when it's time to do that, and it can even record your medication adherence when you tell GrandCare, yes, I've taken my medication. It'll record that, and so it keeps record of that. But also, GrandCare uses optional wireless telehealth devices, like for people managing chronic health conditions at home, as many seniors are. If you have diabetes, or you have hypertension, or you have CHF, or whatever it is, the chronic condition that you're managing at home, it's very likely that you have to take vital readings every day, and sometimes more than once a day. GrandCare can remind you to take those readings when you're supposed to take them, and it will also wirelessly record those readings, put them in your chart. But even one better, GrandCare, it can reach out and tell someone if those readings are not good. If your oxygen's too low or your temperature is elevated, GrandCare will notify the appropriate people that is the case. And GrandCare, of course, helps you stay connected. And by that, I mean GrandCare has a number of features that we refer to as socialization features. And so that's, it's the exchange of letters, it's sending messages to the touch screen, it's uploading photos to be looked at in the slideshow. But the big one here is the fully encrypted, end-to-end encrypted, HIPAA compliance video calls that you can do from your iPhone with our free iOS app, or from your PC, your laptop, any internet-connected device pretty much will do. You can call that touchscreen with a video call, and the touchscreen user can call you too. More on that in a little bit. So what are we talking about here? GrandCare, as you may know, is a large touchscreen. It's about, as I speak, it's a 17.3-inch diagonal touchscreen, which is bigger than your laptop but smaller than your TV, and it's meant to be in a stationary place on your kitchen counter or on your living room table, some public area of your residence, wherever it is that you call home, and there's some of those wireless motion and door sensors. You can see we have a push-button pendant that you could wear around your neck if you need that sort of thing. And then there's the health devices. It's the usual suspects. All of the health devices that GrandCare uses are Class 2 medical devices, so that they're as accurate as they can be. It's A&D Medical. It's actually, we have a newer glucometer than this picture. We're using one by Fora Health. And there's a blood pressure unit and a fingertip pulse oximeter. And we also have the ear thermometer, not pictured here, sorry. So that's what you have hardware-wise at the point of care. But what about the other end? What do you have if you're a remote caregiver? What do you need there? You don't need another GrandCare to talk to GrandCare. What do you use? You use whatever it is you have. Any internet-connected thing that you have, whether it's your smartphone, your laptop, your tablet, what have you, is how you would access and interact with that person's GrandCare. And a little note about so if I'm that family caregiver, right? If I'm that civilian that's called up and asked for a GrandCare for mom or dad, then when I log in to the GrandCare caregiver's website, I would see mom or dad, and that's it. Very simple. But what if I'm a business customer and I have, what if I'm a home care agency and I have 125 GrandCares deployed in the homes of all the people that I serve? What do I see when I log in? Well, you see more of an enterprise dashboard where you can see these data-driven charts and graphs and so on. So I just want you to know that that's a thing that we do. Speaking of which, here I am logged in to the GrandCare Caregivers web portal. And there's a lot of things that I can do here, and there's many things that we can talk about. Let's start here. If I click on the Show Touchscreen button, what that's going to do for me is it's going to open up an emulated version of that person's touchscreen. You can see I'm getting a reminder here to take my temperature, and so I, the touchscreen user, would go, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that, and I could say, yes, I've taken my temperature, thank you. And so let's take a quick tour of the GrandCare touchscreen. First of all, you can see that the there's some to-do items that are coming up for me that I can just say, yes, I've done that. Maybe I've done that as well. But more on the to-do list in a little bit. But right now you can see that GrandCare is showing some photos, some stock photos, and probably some family photos and other items of interest in the slideshow. But let's go ahead and take a look at what else we've got. Up here in the upper left, we've got the current time. And if I touch that, if I touch the touch screen, I can see the analog clock if I'd like to see that. Down below that, I've got the current weather conditions. And actually, I'm told that this is the most touched item on the GrandCare touchscreen because everyone wants to touch it and see what the extended forecast is. And it looks like we're in for some rain. And below that, we've got something called the main menu. I'm going to come back to this in a big way in a little bit, but right now I just want to say that the buttons that you see here on the main menu, how many there are and what they are, is entirely up to you and your agency to determine, or that you might customize for a specific individual as well. So that's up to you. For the purposes of my demonstration system, it's got these 8, and we'll talk about some of them in a little bit. Below that, I've got the slideshow, and the slideshow button. If I touch it, it will just advance the next slide in the slideshow, and you can see the weather is part of the slideshow, and then there's some photos of me and Laura and some of our friends. And as long as I keep touching that, it's going to cycle through those photos. But you don't have to touch this button. If you leave GrandCare idle, that is, you don't touch the touchscreen for a while, it'll eventually start cycling through this slideshow all on its own. Below that, I have the video call button. And if I touch it, I can see a list of people that I can make a video call to. All I have to do is touch any of these people's names or photographs, and I will initiate a video call to them immediately. And so I'm not able to actually answer a call while I'm recording this, but I can at least show you the ringing behavior. So if I make a call to myself, you see on this end, on the touch screen, I'm the touch screen user, the care recipient at home with GrandCare. And on this screen, I am the remote caregiver logged into the GrandCare website in my web browser. So if I'm the touchscreen user and I want to call Scott, I would just do this. And you can see the call going out. And on this side, there's a call coming in. On top of that, it's ringing my iPhone because I have the iOS app installed. Now I'm just going to hang it up because I can't answer it. And so I'll go back and hang that up. And then if I do it the other way, let's say that I'm the remote caregiver and I'd like to make a call to that touch screen, what do? Well, you just go here to the video call button. There's my call going out. And here's the touch screen and my call coming in. Now I'll just ignore that. And I'm told that my call was not answered yet. That's okay. So that's how that works. So you can do those calls right here in your laptop and your web browser as I'm doing, or you can do them with our free app on your iPhone. And yeah, we will have an Android version coming soon to that, but you may find that your Android web browser, being based on Chrome, will work just the same way as your laptop or PC does if you log into the Caregiver's website in your Android phone browser. So that's video calling and touchscreen emulation, but there's more that we can do here in the Caregiver's web portal, and in fact there's much more, but I'm just going to talk about 3 of those items. And to do that, I'm going to open up the care menu with that button there. And so there's a lot going on here, but I'm really going to focus on just 3 areas that I think are the core of GrandCare functionality. Number one is the activity button. Now, if I open that up, so this demonstration GrandCare is a real GrandCare system. It's actually in the GrandCare offices right now, even though there's pretty much no one there. And it's got real motion detectors that are, there's one that's located in the GrandCare kitchen. And if I click on this icon, I can see the graph of the motion that kitchen motion sensor has detected today. And it looks like, my guess is that there's one person in the GrandCare office just for the sake of shipping and receiving, and it looks like that individual maybe got a cup of coffee this morning when they came in, and not much else has happened because no one else is there. But the idea here with GrandCare is not that you, as a caregiver, would log into this website and click on this icon and sort of eyeball this graph and scratch your head and try to figure out if the activity level at that sensor looks correct. You don't have to do that, because what you do is down here in the rules for these motion sensors. So, like for example, like in the case of my dad, if there's no motion between these hours, then send an email to everybody to let them know. Right? If there's no motion in Dad's kitchen from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., then I need to get notified about that. And those kind of rules can be different for every individual, right? So maybe if somebody has pets, if they have dogs, then maybe the rule is about the door sensor on the back door. If that back door doesn't open in the morning to let the dogs out, well, somebody should probably get notified about that. That would be very strange, and somebody should look in on that. And you can see that we've got a door sensor here, and here we've got, in this case, it's if this door is left open for more than 15 minutes, then somebody, I guess it's me, gets a text message about that. And that's the way that the activity sensing in GrandCare works. Next thing, let's talk about wellness. So, and by wellness, we're really talking about telehealth, right? It's somebody at home using a wellness device to take their vital readings. They're taking their blood pressure, they're taking their glucose, or they're taking their weight. Whatever it is that they're doing, they have a device at home to take those readings every day. And GrandCare will wirelessly record those readings and so on. And so we can, as a caregiver, we could log in here, and of course a real person would have one, or perhaps they would have two wellness devices. This individual, for the sake of demonstration, has several, but that's not typical. So, and we could log in here to the website and look at the chart and maybe look at the oxygen level for April if we want to. There's the oxygen level for April. And if we want to, maybe we could, if we want to see the graph, maybe we could look at the graph to help us spot trends or issues if we want that. But, really the idea here is that these things are here for you to print out so that you can take them with you to the doctor's appointment that you have. But then again, the real power of GrandCare is not coming in here and looking at these charts. It's down here in the rules. If the systolic blood pressure is greater than 130, then text me because I want to know. If the oxygen is less than 80, that would be alarming, and so you, of course, want to let someone know. In this case, it's sending a text message to Charlie. And so it's the case that you can have a number of different caregivers get notified in several different ways about the exact same condition. Maybe I want to get a phone call, Charlie wants to get a text message, and you want to get an email about the exact same condition. You can do that. That's what you can do in GrandCare. And the other thing that you can do is create what we call a call-out list. And that's just a list of phone numbers that GrandCare can call in order. It'll call the first number on the list, and say, "This is GrandCare. I'm calling about Janie Smith and Janie Green, and her blood pressure is greater than the threshold that you've established. Please press 1 to acknowledge that you've heard this message." And if GrandCare doesn't hear you pressing 1, it's going to call the next number on the list. Actually, I think it calls you twice to give you a chance that. But then, if it doesn't get, if you don't acknowledge that you've heard the message, it calls the next number on the list, and so on, so that you can establish that that call-out list of escalating phone numbers for that condition. And the third thing I wanted to show you here in the care menu is medication. So all you need to do is you tell GrandCare what medication you're taking and when you're supposed to take it, and then GrandCare will, you know what it does, it brings up a little message on the screen, it makes a little sound, and it says it's time to take your medication, and you just touch the button that says, yes, I've taken it, taken that medication now. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you don't push the, yes, I've taken it, I've acknowledged this medication button. And in which case, you might have a rule, as I do here, that if any medication is not acknowledged as taken, then I get a text message to let me know, so that I might follow up with you, and maybe I do a video call with you and say, hey, Janie, I noticed you didn't acknowledge your medication. Did you forget to take it today? And I can do that checkup with that individual. And by the way, this would be a good place to talk about the fact that many of GrandCare's customers are home care agencies. Not all. We have other customers as well, but many of them are in-home care agencies. And what they're doing with GrandCare is, well, they don't always tell us exactly what they're doing because they don't have to. But I have the sense that for the most part, what they're doing is they're putting a GrandCare in the home of somebody they already do business with, somebody they're already caring for. Maybe they're coming into that home 3, 4, 5 days a week to do the things for Janie that she can't do for herself, that she needs help to do. Maybe it's preparing a meal, maybe it's doing the laundry or housekeeping, or maybe it's bathing, maybe it's incontinence care. Whatever it is that they're going into that home to help her do, they're going into that home, but they're not there 24/7. Right? So they're there sometimes and other times not. So one of the things that they're doing for these folks is, in addition to the in-home care hours that they have, they're putting a GrandCare touchscreen in the home. And then they're doing like what I do with Dad. They're putting that motion sensor in their kitchen, for example. And now if there's no motion in the kitchen in the morning, it's not me who gets the alert. It's the home care agency that gets notified about that. And then they can follow up accordingly, maybe with a video call to that individual. So that's a level of service and monitoring that they charge for, and people are willing to pay for that kind of peace of mind. And the other thing I think that most of them are doing is that on every day that there's not a caregiver in the home, or maybe in the evening when there's no caregiver in the home, that somebody in that agency will make a video call to that individual. Hey, Mrs. Green, you look nice today. Did you get your hair done? And they'll have a little conversation. And that way, every single day, whether there's a caregiver in the home or not, every single day that agency has eyes and ears on that person. That's better than a phone call because you actually get to see them. And you get to see them, and it's much more informative about how that person is doing. How are they dressed? What do they look like? Are they smiling at you? You know, there's a lot that you can tell by having a video call with somebody that you can't do with just a simple phone call. So that's what home care agencies are doing. They're putting that motion sensor in, they're doing that remote monitoring, that remote activity monitoring, and they're also doing those virtual visits. They're doing those video calls to drop in and say, hi, how are you doing today? Especially on days if there maybe is no caregiver in the home. Now, let's go back and take a look at that touchscreen one more time, because there's some things on the main menu, here on the main menu, that I mentioned that we would get back to talk about some of these things, and so let's do that now. So there's a lot of things that you can have here on this main menu, and this GrandCare has a great many different items on it. And of course, it could have more or it could have fewer. Many GrandCares are deployed with people that just have 3 or 4 buttons, and that's because that's the only ones that individual needs. It really just depends on what you'd like to do. I should also point out that in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that it doesn't say GrandCare Systems, it says Gaitha Trails, but it might well say the name of your company, your organization. We do that kind of branding for you if you'd like that, and so that you can have your own brand on display on the touchscreen in the home of your customers all the time. We think that's important. So what do we have going on here in the main menu? There's a number of things that I'd like to get to. Number one is we have what's called concierge-style service requests in GrandCare. And this started because we had a senior community that had decided that they were going to put a GrandCare in every apartment, and so they did that. And then they asked us, apparently they had a salon, like a hair salon, on the lower level of this community, and they wanted people to be able to order, to request appointments at the hair salon from their touchscreen. And could we do that for them? And we said, sure, great idea. But why stop there? It occurred to us that if you can make a hair appointment, why can you not do a bunch of other stuff too? So that's where we created this services button, and you can have as many services as you want, and they can be anything that you want, and they can be services that are provided by you in your organization, or they can be services provided by trusted third parties in the wider community that you've entrusted to provide that service for your residents, for your care recipients, for your clients. And so, like for example, let's say, for example, I need somebody to come and clean my house. And we think that actually, it feels different to do this, to do a concierge-style request for service. It's like living in a fancy hotel, rather than being an elderly shut-in at home who needs a caregiver. Even though that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm having a caregiver come to clean my kitchen, but it feels different somehow, and we think that's important. It's a little more dignified. And so I could say I want somebody to come and clean my kitchen tomorrow afternoon, and then I could say a little detail about what I want. Exactly what I want them to do. And so then, having done that, I've filled out this form. I can just touch the request button, and my request is sent. Now, it's important that you know what happens when I do that. What happens is an email gets sent to an address that you specify as a provider of that service. It could be the pizza joint down the street. It could be the local dry cleaner. It could be your office. It could be your office. Well, if they're requesting somebody to come and clean their kitchen, you can have somebody come and do that for them, sure. And so it goes to whoever you say it should. Maybe it goes to you, and then your office coordinates with Uber to give them a ride to the doctor. It's any way you want. And so, again, our customers don't always tell us exactly what they're doing with these features because we're not involved in it. It's between them and their clients and their maybe their third-party partners. But I think what's happening there is like a home care agency or a senior housing community approaches the pizza guy down the street and says, "Hey, I'll put your button on all my on my touchscreens if you give my people a discount, or maybe we get a cut of that purchase as well." I don't know exactly what's happening there because GrandCare doesn't get a cut of that, but I'm pretty sure that there's some of that going on. So this can be a source of new revenue for your organization, and it can also be a way to provide more care than a person might otherwise have, because they can just ask for whatever they need whenever they need it. So that's how that works. Service requests. Other things that we have going on here that are important. Here's a thing. So maybe you are a home care agency and you have a caregiver going into the home of this individual, maybe not every day, but maybe it's most days, to help them do the things that they need help with. But so if I'm a caregiver and I'm on site, I'm at the point of care, I'm there next to the touchscreen, what is GrandCare doing? What is the GrandCare touchscreen doing for me? Well, that's when we get to this caregiving button. And I can open up the caregiving button. And so at this point, I would be asked to identify myself with a 4-digit PIN number. But I've apparently already done that. And I can clock in and clock out. Now that it knows who I am, I can just say, yeah, I'm here. I'm on the job. I'm at the point of care. But what do you do when you're here? Well, the first thing I might do is look at today's care plan. What am I supposed to be doing while I'm here? What am I supposed to do for this person while I'm here on my shift? Well, I've got a list, and I can check these items off as I go through my day, that I've done these things and accomplished these tasks. And of course, this is all reportable on the back end so that my care manager will know that all these things have been done and when and by whom. And some care plan items can be done just once during that day. Some can be done multiple times, like this item here. I could maybe check that a second time, and so it's documented that I've done that 2 times today. Sometimes some tasks have to be done at a certain time. Others are more free-floating. Some are mandatory. Some are optional. You can have a whole bunch of different types of care plan services for your caregivers to do at the point of care. And it's really important to understand too that most home care agencies have enterprise software that they use to establish these types of care plans already. And they use this software to do their scheduling and maybe even their billing. And they've got their entire care plan populated into this software. It's important that you understand that GrandCare has a standards-based API. It's a method for talking to that enterprise system that you might be having and exchanging information with it, so that ideally GrandCare, the touchscreen, could know what your care plan is and populate these items right from your existing systems. And the other thing I'd like to talk about too is the schedule, today's schedule. Now, today's schedule, I think, is a really powerful feature for the touchscreen user, because it can have, today's schedule pulls information from your medication schedules. So it's going to have your medication times on it. It's going to pull from your personal calendar so that your family or your community might put events on there for you to do and to know about. It looks like this individual is part of a senior community that has community events happening, like apparently it's movie night tonight, and there's a gardening session going on that I might go to. But the idea here is that I can also have personalized to-do lists just for me, like to remind me to do things like eat breakfast or eat lunch or let the dog out or whatever it is that you need to be reminded to do. Here in my home, I have a GrandCare too, and my GrandCare reminds me on Monday night to take the garbage out because I might forget, but it reminds me to do that In the same way that your smartphone reminds you, it makes a little noise and you look at it and you say, "Oh, I have a meeting with Scott in 10 minutes. I better get ready for that." It's that type of cognitive assist that you and I and everyone has in their pocket all day long. That it's only fair that the people who need it the most, as that seniors and maybe people with cognitive disabilities, have those type of technology cognitive assists too. And that's what today's schedule is all about. It will remind you to do the things that you're supposed to do at the right time, and you can touch the little checkbox to indicate that you've done that thing. And incidentally, senior communities, the activities directors in these communities just love this stuff, because if the touchscreen in your apartment makes a sound and reminds you that that it's time for the poker club is going to meet in 15 minutes. When you have that kind of thing going off in everybody's room, what you get is increased participation. And when you have increased participation, you have better resident satisfaction. And these are real things, real metrics that these communities measure, that they matter to them. And so if you can get more people to participate in your community events because GrandCare is in their apartments reminding them about it, that's a great thing. That's a great thing to have. Well, there are many other features of GrandCare that we might talk about, depending on what type of GrandCare user you are. But I think we'll leave it there for now. And if you have other questions about GrandCare, please reach out to us, give us a call, send us an email, and we'd be delighted to answer all of your questions and show you all of the things that you might be interested in having in your GrandCare world.